Hey everybody, so what I'm in is Adobe and I'm in my own account. I happen to have sorry about that, a logo here. That doesn't matter, yours will probably be a circle. You'll see that it's welcoming me. So you're always gonna wanna be checking that it's your name, and it's a good idea to check that it's also you. We've had a mistake before where students had the same first name and didn't realize they were in each other's account. So what you're going to see here are some things that would be like in my cloud. Some of them are mine and some of them are student work, and that's fine. This is Adobe Illustrator, and typically we would work in Chrome. And you saw just a second ago that was Safari up there, but we'll usually be in Chrome. And once you get started, you're either going to be opening something or starting a new file. And there's one quick way to do it there, as well as here. You could do File New, and you can see the keyboard shortcut is Command N. So let's try this way, which is exactly the same as this one. Okay, Command N. And you get this pop up, and print with 11 inches by 8.5 inches is a typical piece of letter paper. I like to guide students to use this word here, print, and it doesn't mean you're printing something. It means these are typical printer paper sizes. Okay, and this says letter, but it's confusing because it's in points. Well, the first thing you want to do is change that to inches. You're always going to title your work. It's a great idea to start with your name, first or last, or even your first initial. Never leave your work untitled. So I'm just going to call this Hudoc 1 because it's my first thing. Sometimes you will need to worry about your color mode. RGB is typical for Photoshop when you're filtering, and CMYK is typical for printing. Usually it'll default to the high. If you were creating for a website, you could use screen. So we're going to keep with high 300, and you hit create. Oh, by the way, you can change your orientation. So this is portrait, which is vertical, or landscape, which is horizontal. And this means artboard 1 means your one piece of paper. So if you wanted to work with more than one piece of paper, you could up this arrow. You could also highlight over that. Okay, typically we're just going to be working with one. So this is my 11 by 8.5. You wouldn't know that because there's no ruler here, but there's a way to get a ruler. That is Command R. It's also in View, Rulers, Show Rulers, Command R. Okay, if it's not inches, you can change it right here by right-clicking on the ruler. Okay, that's with your mouse. So you want to look at that. You can hit Command minus to zoom it out, Command plus to zoom it in. You can also use the zoom tool, and the hand tool will move the paper. Okay, so if you wanted to look at one area of your paper, and the zoom tool is a more specific way of zooming in. So the two important tools here, one is the selection tool. You must memorize this. The keyboard shortcut is V. And the direct select tool can be very handy, as you can see in that mini video. The keyboard shortcut is A. Here we have the pen tool, and what they're doing is creating anchor points, and that keyboard shortcut is P. Here is the curvature pen. Now the pen tool can also create curves. We will learn how to use the pen tool, but feel free to also try the curvature pen as well. T for type, and the line segment. See this little tiny arrow? That means there are more options. So a lot of these have more options, right? And you can pop those options out right here on the sidebar, and you can move them. You can put them right on your paper. It's your artboard, okay? So we have line segment, arc tool, spiral tool, rectangular grid tool, polar grid tool. And in another video, you will see how these three work. Here we have a shape tool. And again, you can pop those out. You can have them go in either direction. So we have rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, star, and flare. Now, all of these can be adjusted. You don't have to just have a plain old star. Here's one place to see color. Okay, so there's like a magenta, and here's a drop down. This is called the control bar. If you don't have it, it's right here. Make sure your control bar is showing. So these are called swatches in here, but if you were to want something better, you could double click this and maybe pick a different pink by putting your mouse in this area and then click OK. So we probably could look up a swatch color for a Barbie color, and if you found it, you would put the hex number for Barbie pink right here and hit OK. These kind of look bubblegummy, but whatever. So with any of these tools, you either can click and get a menu. The menu gives you the options of what you can input. Okay, so let's say I want a 1 inch by 1 inch with 11 points, and hit OK. I'm sorry, that was too big. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm zoomed in so much or if there's something wrong, but let's try a 1/2 inch. Okay, that seems weird. So I want to move this. I can use the selection tool. How much am I zoomed in? I'm going to hit Command 0. Oh, I have zoomed in a lot. Command 0 will center your artwork for you. Okay, and as I zoom back in, this percentage down here, that's 400%, that shows you how much I'm zoomed in. So I could have looked at that. Also, a second ago, you might have seen some dots show up on these. I'm going to show you a few things you can do. Okay. One thing is these anchor points where these squares are, the pink words that are showing up are showing me what they're called. Okay, so we have a path that is what's between the anchor points. So I can manipulate that shape here with those, or with the corner. Okay, if I hold shift, it'll keep the proportions that I had. If I switch to the direct select tool, I can curve this stuff with those. These are called widgets. If I only want to curve one, oops, I can double click it and manipulate just that one. I can also isolate a handle and manipulate those widgets, or I can isolate an anchor point. Okay, so the handle, pardon me, my handles don't want to show. Okay, here's one. I'm going to zoom in some more. So this is a handle. Okay, this is also a handle. You can pull on the handles to manipulate like how the curve is reacting to the pull. Think of it like a rubber band, whereas the anchor just moves kind of itself, right? So the points that connect the shape, and the widgets, and they never show up, but what they're called are what can kind of manipulate the curve of the anchor, or you can take it back to a point. Okay, notice that this point is sticking out kind of weird There's actually a way to control that too. If you were to get out your window for stroke options, okay, that's over here. And these are also able to be moved. I could make the stroke or the weight of the line thinner and thicker. You can also change what the end caps look like. So here I could just round the ends. But what we're looking at is a corner. So in this case, the corner is sticking out past the anchor. In this case, it would round past. So do you see how that changed? Let's go back. So pointed out, rounded, or mitered. So also doesn't look that great, and that also has to do with the handle. So you can have more or less handle to control that. So there's always a way to perfect basically everything you do. And you can see things like go away and come back as you hover over them. So that's really important to be aware of. You can always come back to your shape, and like you can just move the whole thing with the regular selection tool. Okay, so some kind of weird cookie with a bite out of it. While it's selected, meaning you have your selection tool and you just click it, you can change the color as well as the stroke or the outline. So what you want to do is have that forward. So these are clickable. Having stroke forward means you can change basically everything about it. And it doesn't even have to stay opaque. So opacity, there's one place to find it, is here. You can lower the opacity of your shape, meaning you can see through them, right? And each one can be dealt with differently. And all I did was hit Command C to copy and Command V to paste. So there's copy, paste. All right, and undo, this is one to memorize, Command Z. So let's try Command Z. Okay, so back where I started from. You can do a lot of Command Z's. If you go too far and you want to get it back, you do Command Shift Z. And that is the undo. Whoops, redo, my bad. Shift, this arrow means shift. So Shift, Command Z. You could also hit Command C and then Command V, 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 V. And it doesn't look like you got a lot, but that's because they are on top of each other. I think that's the last one because they all look. Oh, I didn't show you how to rotate. So see this arrow with the curves? How I got that is by hovering at the right place. So just use that to turn. Okay, and so the two-sided arrow is for squishing and pulling, basically. Same with on the corners. And again, holding Shift is going to constrain your proportions, keeping them equal. So that doesn't look equal compared to these because I manipulated it before I hit Shift. So if I want to keep it the way it is now, but make it bigger, hit Shift and then drag. Okay, looks like some kind of crazy science something. What else do I want to show you today? Right now, we'll take the star tool, and we were doing that before. You can click and drag, or you can click and reduce the amount of points. Obviously, a three-sided one is going to be a triangle. When you're dragging, it's going to give you the last one used. So if you want to change it, click and go back to the menu. All right, I can't move it here because I'm on the star tool unless I get it right in the center. Oops, I'm lying. Okay, usually it'll allow me to move it when I'm right in the center. But if it doesn't, you just hit V on your keyboard to get your selection tool and you can move it. Okay, the next thing I want to show you, which will come up in another thing later, is putting shapes behind shapes when they're in front. So let's say I want to put this yellow star behind this red star. So a lot of students like to use the right click, okay? And that is going to be arrange. You can send backward, but it's only going to go behind the very last thing you made, right? So, because it doesn't know what you're trying to do. So if you know you want it to be behind basically everything, you can hit send to back. Okay, and so now what you've selected is behind everything. It's kind of hard to tell that when things have lower opacity, but I think that's good for now. Thank you, thank you.